Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel. And a while ago, I asked you guys to fill out this questionnaire over on my community tab. I called it your writing experience and goals with a little smiley face. The questions were kind of an assortment of things ranging from a variety of topics surrounding like your aspirations for your potential publishing career, if you've made money from writing previously, what kind of genre you like to write in. So I figured I would kind of go over the stats with you guys because I found them really interesting. Yeah, within the first like 36 hours, I already had over 1,000 responses, which is freaking phenomenal. I actually ended up capping it a few days later, even though like responses were still kind of trickling in. So we had a total of 1,247 responses total to cover these stats. So when I asked you guys how long you considered writing to be a passion or even a hobby, the biggest chunk came in at 10 to 20 years, which isn't super surprising if I looked at my analytics. I think my age range tends to be around late 20s, early 30s on average. So for example, I selected the 10 to 20 years. I am 28 years old as of this filming. Oh, I just turned 28 and a half. And I would consider myself to have been writing kind of consistently since I was 13. So that's about 15 years, and that's what I selected. The one that really surprised me though was, have you taken any kind of formal writing class? I wish I would have asked if y'all went to, college or university, what you majored in, but I did not do that. 42.3% of y'all said yes, that you had taken a class. So while it wasn't the majority, it was such a close split. And actually, when I looked at the authortubers numbers, more had taken formal classes on writing, which I don't know if that's surprising or not. It's certainly interesting. And I believe I had over 100 authortubers or so that submitted answers. So after I extrapolated out the authortubers and sort of separated the two groups of creators specifically and then viewers, of the viewers, 40.8% had taken a formal or traditional class on writing, so no masterclass types. But this was different from 56.5% of authortubers who had taken a formal class on writing. I'm not someone who has taken a formal class, so this was just super interesting. I am a little bit curious how many people went on to get potentially an advanced degree in writing. This is something I've seen some famous authors do, like I believe Marissa Meyer has some kind of master's in writing, but it's not necessary to be a good writer, right? It's just, I just find it interesting. I think a lot of stuff like this, there's a time commitment, and I think sometimes getting an advanced degree, because you have to be putting in time for the degree, it kind of gives you that avenue. But again, you don't need one. 93% of you guys are already published or hope to be published one day. We'll get into that stat a little bit more, but yeah, only 7% of y'all have no aspirations to be published. I think what I'll do the next time I have a poll is kind of guess what these stats are going to be ahead of time. Damn, that plane's loud. The 7% sounds about right to me. I have had people in my comments say that they only want to write fan fiction, and for them that doesn't count as being published, though that's certainly still sort of writing for an audience. There's some people who don't want to share their writing ever at all, and it's just kind of this, some kind of catharsis for them. And this is where we get into the interesting bits, right? So it asks, what avenue of publication have you pursued or are you considering? So this is something to note, is that though I had over 1,200 responses, I am pulling my audience, so people that would have seen my community tab and decided to answer. So there's already some kind of percentage of people that might have interesting stats that just aren't going to fill out a questionnaire. But also if someone like Alexa Dunn were to be, pulling people, because she talks a lot more about traditional publishing, I think her answers would have skewed more towards traditional publishing than mine did. That being said, 37.3% of people wanted to be traditionally published only, with 43% wanting to be hybrid, which was the most popular answer. Now, again, I don't know if that's because I've been, I've talked about how I want to be a hybrid published author, fingers crossed, as I can't control the traditional side of things. And I don't know if that means other people who also want to be hybrid published kind of gravitate toward my channel, or what it is. 13.6% want to be self or indie published exclusively, and then 6.1% say none. I don't want to be published, which in comparison with the full 7% earlier is kind of an interesting dynamic. Don't really know what happened there entirely. Could potentially be that if someone doesn't want to continue being published and maybe their first publication was forever ago, they weren't really sure how to answer. There are a couple places here where I'm like, I maybe wasn't as clear as I could have been, but yes. So once again, once I pulled the authortubers away, 38.13% of viewers wanted to pursue traditional publications specifically, compared to only 29.5%. So it was like 30 versus 40%, but yeah, only 30% of authortubers wanted to pursue traditional publication. And I think that is sort of reflected in the people that I have seen that I've watched. The one that really shocked me was, do you want to use a pen name? Came in at 58.5% said yes. So again, this isn't that far off from like a 50-50 split, but as Kate Kavanaugh is a pen name, as I often talk about pen names, I have to wonder if that has anything to do with it, if me being more vocal about pen names is part of it, because I know some authortubers who aren't as vocal, but they use pen names. Like, I know that those are pen names. So it's just kind of interesting. I'd love, in some kind of made-up world, which can't be possible, if we could, multiple of us put out a questionnaire at the same time and see if that has any kind of determination, if our audiences skew a little bit different. I'd be interested. Like the Courtney Project. If the Courtney Project did it, how many more self-publishing people would she get? For what age range do you write in? I let people select multiple options. 66.7% of people who watch my channel write in YA. Now they might write in other things, but they definitely write YA. Followed by 55.6% write adult, 52.4% write new adult, and then 14.8% middle grade, and 5.6% write children's or picture book. Now what genres you write in was another one where I was like, if you write in multiple genres, please click all that you write in. I had to do a little bit of correction of the numbers, which I'll flash on the screen, because I left out two genres, multiple genres, but two that I write in, which are contemporary and LGBTQ+. I didn't put them on there. And I write in them often, so I don't know, my brain was just like, I'm trying to get as many as possible. I don't know if I overcrossed some or what, but it's fine. Thank you guys, everyone, for writing it in. The most popular genres were fantasy, romance, science fiction, mystery. We got speculative fiction in there actually at a higher amount than I would have thought. Literary was also higher than I would have thought, so it's just kind of cool. I don't know that I see that represented all the time in the live stream, so it's just interesting to kind of consider. For what type of writing would you do? This actually inspired me. I won't talk about it too much, but I had an idea. I had an epiphany from this one. But 92.9% of people write novels. Now they might be writing other stuff, but they definitely write novels. 50% of us write short stories though. Like that's something I would have selected: novels, short stories, novellas, but I just found it really interesting that it was so high. Over 50%, 50.8. Also wrote short stories. So novellas was 35%, poetry 26.3%. I feel like authortube in general does not represent poetry nearly as much as people who selected that, so it's just very fascinating. Essays were 16.5%, screenwriting 13.1%, epics 8.8%. For have you ever written fan fiction? 42.7% said no, I've never written fan fiction. The rest of us either have or are currently writing it, and I don't know why I found that surprising. I guess it's just based off of the writers that I talk to. Almost all of them wrote fan fiction, and so for that to be such a high number that have not ever, it's just so interesting to me that people started with this kind of original fiction. It's just, we all have different paths, you know? And one of the answers that made me feel really good was that 70.2% of us have taken a break from writing longer than 6 months. It's reassuring in some ways that it's okay, you can take a break and the writing is always going to be there. So then I had one of my first, if you answered yes to the previous question, let me know this kind of thing, where I asked what the longest amount of time you've been away from writing is. And the 6 months to a year was the main choice at just over 50%. And this is where I should have done like 6 months to 11 months and then like 12 months to 1 year and then 1.1 years to 2, you know, kind of thing, but I overlapped them a little bit. But 1 to 2 years followed that, then 2 to 5, and it just makes sense. It's easy to understand how that would happen. For have you ever been paid to write? 21.6% of people said yes. This is the one that I was really interested in when I take authortubers out of the equation and just compare the two. 20.2% of viewers had been paid to write in some capacity versus the creators, where 33.6% had been paid to write in some capacity. And again, self-publishing can be included in here. So of the 269 responses I got that people have been paid to write, and they could select multiple of these, so they could have been paid to also freelance while writing articles on Medium or while getting a traditional publishing contract. So you could do multiple. 42.4% said they worked as a copywriter or an essay article writer or some other kind of writer on a freelance basis. 33.8% were currently or have been employed by a specific company, so one company in a part-time or full-time capacity, writing, doing some kind of writing, whether that's like ad copy or anything else. So one company, not freelance. Then 25.7% had self-published. Again, these numbers differ from when I extrapolate out the authortubers, which is a higher percentage. 24.9% currently sell or have sold articles or essays to newspapers or magazines. 11.5% had posted to websites like Medium or others that pay based off of the number of views you get. And then unsurprisingly, 11.2% have or had a traditional publishing contract. But that is 30 responses, and it's really interesting to me because obviously if you look at authortube as a whole, I think I can name 3 people off the top of my head that make videos that have or had traditional publishing contracts, not ones that are currently pursuing it necessarily, but like that already have it. So like Liz L. Sandberry, Alexa Dunn, Michelle Schusterman, and this is where I'm straining because I'm sure there's more, but certainly not, you know, 30 of them making videos about it that I'm aware of. So it's just kind of interesting. It's still obviously less than self-publishing, but it's not nearly as underrepresented as it is compared to people who are making videos about it. And then for the last question, which was, do you currently have an AuthorTube channel? I only did that so that I would be able to extrapolate the data later and sort of see the difference, but 9.8% of people have an AuthorTube channel. I really don't know what I thought the answer was going to be to that. I guess 10% isn't surprising if you look at based off of views necessarily, but I honestly don't know. I don't know. Let me know, comment down below. That might be like a normal ratio for other communities, like the booktube community too. I would be really interesting to see. But yeah, so 9.8% of people who filled out the survey did have an AuthorTube channel. And then the coolest other thing was all these other questions other than the like, if you answered yes kind of thing, were required questions. So I think that was like 13, 14, or 15 that were required for you to answer, but the last one was not required at all. And it was, if you could ask your fellow writers one other question, what would it be? And I got 719 responses, which is so cool. So I'm still kind of peeling through that data, and I'm either going to use it to make another sort of interesting poll like this because there's some follow-up questions that I would like to ask, or just make videos about it. So it was very cool. Thank you guys so much for submitting your responses to that. But please do comment down below. Let me know if any of these statistics sort of surprised you. Again, I'm gonna have to add that there's an asterisk here because it's just the people specifically who follow me, and I think if anyone else had asked these questions, the answer would be different even if we have some amount of crossover. So take that as you will, yes. Let me know if some of the responses didn't surprise you at all. I think the ones that didn't surprise me, a lot of people write fantasy, that wasn't surprising. And also let me know if there's any questions that you would love to know that I did not include in this particular poll, or if there's an entire sort of if there's an entire sort of survey topic that you would like to cover. I did, again, call this like passions and goals and like experience. So it was kind of hodgepodge together. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon with a new video. Bye. Oh, that's what I should have said at the beginning. The highest was 66.7% of people who watch my channel who filled out the questionnaire. My goodness. It's extra loud today. But thank you guys so much for watching. Oh yeah, that's it.